Welcome, everybody. Dr. Josh Long with AME Podcast, my quest to talk to folks who are making music beyond the classroom. Yes, the lifelong learning in music making. It's so exciting to me because I'm really passionate about folks picking up their instruments beyond the classrooms. We're sponsored by Art and Music Emporium, serving artistic excellence. We offer things such as instrument repair, music lessons, and we also have a few things online on an online store and eBay. But we also do other things such as performance initiatives, such as the annual Community Band by the Sea, which is down in Wildwood, New Jersey. Happens the end of July, and we're super psyched about the 2025 version of that because it's going to be our fifth year. We also in 2024 provided a group called the Bethlehem Steel Company Legacy Band, which was a band that we recreated of the Bethlehem Steel Company Band back in the early 1900s. So stay tuned for the dates for that, as well as we do other things such as Tuba Christmas. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. If you're on Facebook, please like our page. And we also have a Patreon account, which all the proceeds go again towards people making music beyond the classroom. I'm so excited about our next guest. I believe I met her when I was actually advertising about the Wildwood Band, the annual community band by the sea. We started hitting it off, talking about things about instrument repair, and she also created a community band in her local community called the Hunt Valley Wind Ensemble. I'm so excited to introduce our next guest. Please welcome Jenn Ambrosiano. Hey, Jenn, how you doing?
Thanks so much for having me, Josh. Appreciate it.
Well, hey, I thought we'd get started with talking a little bit about your playing. I know you're playing flute now, I believe, and I know you've gotten into that. But I thought maybe we start back in the days when you started making music, just because I think that's such a great thing to capsulate and to talk about and discuss. So I don't know how much you want to tell us, and feel free, to give us, as much as you want, but maybe we'll just start there if that's cool.
That's great. Well, I guess I can say my love of music probably came from my father, who was a saxophone player and also a piano player. So
Okay.
we always had music going on in our house growing up. So when the time came to join a band, actually at my elementary school, you did chorus and band. And so I did both, and I didn't know what to pick for an instrument. And
Okay.
they think it was the sixth grade would do a performance and you can hear all the different instruments and I fell in love with oboe actually and I asked to play oboe.
Oh,
So I
wow.
started on that, which is a very weird instrument to start a child off
Yeah.
with. The reeds back in the 80s were like $8, and every time I broke one, my parents were not happy with me. I
Mhm.
think they're like 20 or $25 now, so
Yeah.
they would definitely not be happy with me now. But I did that for 2 years in fifth and sixth grade. And then
Okay.
when you went to junior high in seventh grade, you couldn't do both chorus and band. And I had to make a decision. And I was really at a crossroads because I really enjoyed being in the chorus. I was also in the glee club. I was in the fifth and sixth grade chorus throughout my elementary years, and I didn't know what to do. And I talked to my music teacher. She was the general music teacher. And
Oh,
I said, her name was Claudia Reinhardt. And I have such fond memories of this teacher in elementary school. And I said, Miss Reinhardt, I don't know what to do. I love chorus and I like band. And I just don't know what to do when it comes to picking for next year. And she told me, it's so much easier to go back
mm.
to singing. So stick with your instrument. And she was the chorus teacher. So she was telling me
Wow.
to sing and go with the instrument because she said if you change your mind, it's so much easier to go back to chorus. So
Yeah.
I did that. In doing that, I also decided I didn't want to play oboe anymore. And our school system had where you can take music lessons through the school system over the summer.
Okay.
So I decided to pick up flute and I took a flute course and then I changed and picked flute, which I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing because flute
Right.
is very popular and everyone plays it. Um, but the rest was history as far as the instrument because I'm still playing it.
Yeah.
So that's where kind of like the beginnings of band, and then of course I went through junior high with that. We did local parades
Hmm.
with that band, and then of course high school came along, and my music teachers in high school were very inspiring to me, and
Wow.
I our high school was only 3 years, so it was 10, 11, 12 because we had a
Okay.
junior high system in New York. So so I was in band all 3 years, and I ended up um becoming a drum major, and I just really just threw myself into it. I just loved it. So I would eat lunch in the band room. I would do
Yeah.
anything to be around band, which is also hard to do because I was also an athlete. So I was struggling between two worlds of,
Yeah.
I played field hockey and I did track, and it's hard to do both when you're like
Yeah.
in marching band, but somehow I made it work. And I just loved it. And, one thing I remember from high school is that when I became a drum major, all the drum majors got to go to a workshop with Dr. Tim Lutzenheimer.
Hmm.
And I think that's his last name.
Yeah.
And it was a leadership workshop. And to this day, I still think of things that I was taught in that workshop that apply to my everyday life, like with whether it's like my job or within the band that I'm in now. So it's very cool that I feel like I've kind of come full circle from that too. So
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if I may, what things do you latch on to, that you think about through that workshop? And because that's really
yeah,
it's really cool that you have those memories because, I think
I just
a
feel
lot.
so lucky that I
Yeah.
got to do it. So some of the, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Josh.
No, no.
So some of the things I remember him saying was like, if you want to be a good leader, an effective leader, like you're
Mhm.
not sitting there telling people what to do. You're not micromanaging them. That's not a
Yeah.
leader. He's like, you're getting down there and doing the work with them. You're helping them lighten their load. You're helping make things easier for them. So I always carry that philosophy in my head when I find myself in a lot of leadership positions throughout my life. I was president of the homeowners association. I'm on the board for the rec council, and then of course I have the band, and I always have that in the back of my mind. Like I don't want to tell people what to do, because they're not going to want to do work for you that way. You want them to
Yeah.
feel like I'm their help. I'm the same as them. So when I as a leader, I'm always trying to make things easier for other people. And then they want to work harder for you then
Hmm.
because they know you're invested in them too. So yeah, so things like that. And he did some like interesting games where like you have to snap and you had to like pass the snap around the circle as fast as you can. He had us do things like get in order by your birthday, but you can't talk. And so you had to like figure out how to like get everybody in the line in the right way. So I don't remember totally like all the little games he did and what
Yeah.
the game was to that,
Yeah.
but I just remember it being a lot of fun and just getting a lot out of it. I'd love to like go retake the class somehow now as an
Yeah.
adult. So
That's awesome. Yeah, and I don't know. It's like those life lessons, and I'm just it's just interesting to me that you still remember those, and you're still following them, especially the leader role, because I know you've done a lot of leadership things within the band community and work,
Mhm.
that you're just talking about that, but that's very interesting. Did when you were in that kind of program, if I may ask it, do you remember exactly where it was? Is it
I
at a
had it at
college
a
or
high school,
oh, was it
like
a high school? Okay.
but I believe he like travels around because I believe,
Okay.
I don't remember because this is a long time ago now, but I believe all the people that were in this class or
Yeah.
clinic were also drum majors.
Oh,
So it
wow.
must have been something that like he hooked into all the high schools and like said, and the high schools, I'm sure there was a fee. I didn't have to pay anything, but I think the
Yeah,
school
right.
paid for me to go,
Right, right,
me
right.
and whoever else was a drum major, um, got to go to the class, and like it was just something that you did. And I got to do it twice. So
That's neat.
it was such a great experience. I believe he over the when the pandemic was happening, he's one of the speakers that the Association for Concert Bands had.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and I think you can go to their website and probably find the interview with him.
Hmm.
So
That's really neat.
he's still around.
No, it's neat. It's just neat you remember all of that and kind of have those life lessons because I don't know, I think it's important because some people think it's just an activity that you were in, in school, for example. You know what I mean? You were
Right.
you were a drum major, okay, great. Okay, you're moved up for, but how much of the leadership part of it, that's just really neat. Um,
Yeah. And probably at the time I didn't realize like how impactful it was
yeah,
and what I was learning, but as I move through life and go through different roles, I always think back to it and to some of the things. I wish I could remember everything that happened because I know it wasn't just a couple of little activities. I think the whole event was probably a couple hours of time.
wow,
So I know a lot happened, but there were just some poignant moments that
yeah,
definitely stuck out to me.
that's awesome. Well, not to shift gears a little bit, but I know you were thinking a little bit about, music, and you started on oboe, which you were very brave, by the way, to do that, because I'll be honest with you, I know.
Or just, yeah, I don't know, naive.
Um, you know, what attracted you to music? Do you remember that? As far as, anything, that brought you, was it an instrument or was it something you saw? And again, you might not remember. You know,
It really probably was my dad. I mean, my
okay.
dad got so excited about stuff. And
Yeah.
like he always said, once I switched to flute, he said, "Oh, you should join jazz band. You should get on sax. The fingerings are pretty similar." And he tried to get me to do that for such a long time, but I wasn't buying what he was selling on that point. But he just got so excited about music, and we had a baby grand in our house, and he would play that, and it was just one of those things that just you I grew up with and just I mean going back to high school a little bit back in the days of band camp where they
Hmm.
had to mail your music and not get emailed like my daughter gets now, but they would mail this packet and I remember we were playing Jupiter from the Whole Planets,
Okay.
one of the pieces,
Hmm.
and I was I didn't know as much about music obviously at the time because I was younger, and I'm like, I don't know these pieces. My dad's like, that's from the Whole Planets. Hold on a second. And he goes running over to his collection of records and pulls out the Whole Planets and he
Wow.
puts on the music and like we listened to it and he's like, you're gonna love this. So I just feel like his excitement for
Hmm.
music and music making in general, it's just I think it was from birth, like I don't know if there was really one moment. It was just something that was just there for me. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's great because I always think, and I've shared it on the podcast once before, but that family connection. For example, I still remember. I know the holidays and whatever anybody's religion is, but it was Christmas at my grandmother's house, and she was playing the Boston Pops. And some of the tunes from there, particular ones, and that whole entire album is just special to me because I heard that and she constantly raved about it. And it seems that's the same story for you. It's,
yeah.
even though he kind of pulled that right out, that's I think the neat part
I
because
mean,
for
he just like
you it
went right to it. And
yeah.
and to bring it even further full circle is that my unfortunately my dad passed a few years ago and I've inherited his record collection and the record player and my children are all into music, my son especially. But I said when we hook up this record player, the first thing we're playing is Jupiter from the Whole Planets. I just wanted that to be the first thing that played in my house and my I had all my kids like come and listen. I was like, you have to because grandpa made me listen to this because it was so exciting. So now you guys are gonna get to do it too. And the funny thing is my son has stolen the record player to his room and my dad's full collection of stuff because he had anything from like the Beatles to the Who to, whatever was popular in his
Yeah.
day. It's all such great music. So my son's just he stole it all. So it's all in his room right now.
Well, I think there's a big thing going on with vinyl now, isn't it? And I know a lot of people are back
Yes,
into that, which is
yes.
great, because
Oh yeah, and he's even bought some even more recent records
that's
to
cool.
go on that record player. And I was like, be careful, that's Grandpa's record player.
That's cool that he has that connection, especially that family connection. I keep going back to that because I think, he reinforced that to you when you were playing that it was something that was familiar to him and made it familiar to you right away. Like, wow, like it,
Yeah, it was
not
like
saying the
some
wrong
sort of
thing here.
connection.
Yeah, that connection. Not saying the wrong thing here. Not that, Whole Planets isn't great music. It is, but it's the fact that, oh, you got this music and you're probably like, what?
I didn't know what it
And then
was.
exactly. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, it's perfect. This is great." Just to reinforce that. That's just amazing.
Yeah, and he always talks about a piece. I'm trying to remember the name of it off the top of my head. I had it and then it's gone. Um, oh, it was a really hard piece of band music that he played in high school, and he just kept going on and on about this piece. And I just, I rolled my eye. This was like recent, like within the last like few years before he passed, and he still was talking about this. Well, our band conductor pulled it out, and I sent him a picture, and I said, Dad, look what we're playing." He goes, "Good luck with that." Like, he knew it was kind of hard. I wish I could remember the name of it right now. It'll come to me
Yeah,
later.
it'll come. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, but that's neat. It's just
Yeah.
it's that connection. I don't know because I always look. My biggest stick, and I'm sure you're dealing with this too. Which we'll get to in a second with the community band that you're involved with. It's like just to keep people connected to music and making, and I always figure out what is it, and it's just neat to hear the little different stories that you were telling me as far as
Yeah.
even with your dad or how you brought it up and then you still had that connection. I mean that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, even some of the stuff we were playing like recently in my band, he was like, "Oh yeah, I know that piece." Like, so he must have really been into it too when he was growing up, like more than he ever let on.
Yeah,
So, because he just knew everything I was doing. So, I
that is
wish I could
awesome.
remember the name of that piece. That's killing me. I was trying to look it up, but
Yeah. You'll think about it. I
yeah,
know it'll come to you,
people
pretty quickly.
listening might be like, "What is it? What is it?"
We'll put it in the comment sections, right?
Okay.
That's what we'll do. So just kind of continue with your history. I know you played through high school, and then if you could just tell a little bit about, I'm just interested, what kind of happened once you got out of high school, and as far as you're playing, because I know you're still playing today,
Mhm.
which is a great thing. But I thought maybe you could just talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I went to Potsdam University for 1 year,
Mhm.
which is really way up there north, upstate New York on the
Yep.
Canadian border practically. And they have the Crane School of Music there, which I was
Mhm.
not applying to. I was not going to be a music major.
Okay.
And when I was in high school, our band was so big, I think we had like 20 flutes. So I didn't realize other bands, that's not normal.
Hmm. Yep.
So, because in my high school, I think our marching band had about 200 people in it.
Oh
That's all.
wow. Yeah.
But in New York, you had to play music all year. Like you had to have a music credit every year. So our bands were just naturally big because everyone was trying to get their music credit
Hmm.
done. So people stayed in band. So I was going to Potsdam because I wanted to be a elementary school teacher, and they had a teaching program there. I kind of picked it out of a hat, almost literally, because I didn't know what I was doing.
Hmm.
I didn't know how to do college. My dad was a single dad, and we didn't visit any colleges. So I was
Hmm.
just kind of going. I was like, I guess I'm going to go to Potsdam. So got accepted, went there. A couple kids from my high school went there, but they were music majors. So I went and tried out to be in the band. I thought, just let me sit in the back row of the flute section is what my mindset was at the time. So naive because I think they only had like six flutes in the band.
Got it.
There was no back row. I, of course, didn't make it because I was going up against music majors who had
Hmm.
already decided to be music majors since they were probably like at least ninth grade.
Hmm.
So I was going up against some really phenomenal people. So I didn't get it. So whatever, I, kind of would practice. And, there was, because it was a music school, they had practice rooms in the dorm rooms in
Okay.
the building. So I would go and just play on my flute for fun. Didn't last very long at Potsdam because it snowed every day there from like October to April. And I was like, I cannot believe how much snow this gets up here. So I then relocated to Maryland. So I went to Towson University and I joined a community band that was associated with the university. I think I was with them for maybe a semester or two. They didn't never seem to perform. I didn't really quite understand what the end game was of this group. I don't know if it was just for fun for people to get together and just play through music. They did a lot of like Broadway and show tunes, and I
Hmm.
really wanted to like play like band music.
Got it.
So that didn't really last for me, and I kind of put my flute down for about 7 years. I didn't play any music for seven
Wow.
years. It was kind of sad, but I didn't know about community bands, and
Hmm.
um, I just didn't. And then I guess I was kind of just searching online and discovered there was a community band near where I was working in Columbia, Maryland. And I reached out to them and I joined them and I ended up being with them for about 12 years.
Okay.
and I joined their board. I was their president for a couple of years. I was really involved. And then there were some circumstances that where I left, and then I didn't play for about another year. And then I had the idea of starting a band closer to where I live. So
Oh.
I, and that's the after college phase before my current band phase.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Well, if I may ask just a little bit, what inspired you to kind of find a community band, after the we'll say the 7 year hiatus, and then there was that year hiatus, you know what I mean? And I know we want to talk a little bit about how you started a community band and all of that, because I'm really interested in that. But I was just interested. Was there anything that was missing or felt that was missing, or anything that led you back? I mean, obviously you got back into it and you're still here
I
today,
just
with it.
always loved playing in a community band. I mean, in a band, not just a community band, but
Right.
I just felt like, gosh, there's got to be a place for adults that can play that are not professionals.
Hmm.
Like, there's so many people that still want to play
Hmm.
their instrument. There's got to be something. And that's when I started doing like a little internet search and discovered, oh my gosh, there's community bands all over the place. I had no idea. And it was kind of sad to me because, you know, there are so many of them. Even
Hmm.
in Maryland, there are so many. I mean, there are so many in Maryland that I can't believe I didn't have a way of knowing about it before I decided to just search around.
Yeah.
Um, so, because every once in a while I would take my flute out and I'd play the same books that I had, and it was kind of
Hmm.
getting boring. I wanted a band. I wanted that full sound around me with the different instruments and stuff, and you just can't get that by yourself at
Right.
home. So,
Right.
uh, yeah, so I was just it was cool when I found it. I was really excited. But at the same time, I was like, gosh, how come more people don't know about this?
Yeah. Yeah, and you
So,
bring up a very solid point. And I mean, of what I know, and again, I don't live in Maryland, but of what I've been told from other friends, I know that, being just I know Maryland people might not like to talk about this, but I know it's the outskirts of like Washington, D.C. I know there's a lot of people who retire around those areas that, played or was involved with that. So I know it seems like it's a really strong area to have these community bands. And I know Pennsylvania does too.
yeah, oh
When I grew
yeah.
up, and it's
Mhm.
like almost, from side to side. I mean, you'll fall into one, but I agree with you, other than, of course, we know the Association of Concert Band. Where do you find them sometimes? You know what I mean? Because it's not, sometimes you don't even know they exist, you know?
Exactly. And I thought like these bands are existing and how does no one know about them? Because they're obviously having concerts. How come no
Yeah,
one knows about concerts? Like they were just like I had so many questions, like, but I was also so excited to find one. So, my
that's cool.
questions waited and I just jumped in. So and
Very cool.
Maryland, with all
Mhm.
their community bands, they have
Yeah.
an annual community band day every year. It's called the Maryland Community Band Day. And there's like between 6 and 8 that will perform on a day. There was one band that hosted it a couple of years and they did a Saturday and Sunday. So they were able to get
Okay.
like 16 bands in over the weekend. So
Wow.
I mean 16 like over a weekend. It's just, back to back performances. And actually my band is going to be hosting Community Band Day this July.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're doing that. So
Yeah. If you want to talk about it a little bit, like,
sure.
it, just what it
Not
entails.
too many details yet,
Yeah.
because we're still reaching out
Sure.
to bands. So we're gonna have them apply, if you will, because there's just
Hmm.
so many bands. We're like, how do we pick? So we're having like an application, but it's going to be, I think it's July 19th at Oregon Ridge in Cockeysville, Maryland, which is like a Park and Recs facility. They have a big band shell there, and then there's an indoor facility. So, which is great because if it rains, we have a place to go. I was just looking at my calendars to make sure I had that date right. Yeah, the 19th, and it's an all-day event where bands get the stage for about 40 minutes, maybe 45. And then, you perform, a few selections of something that highlights your band, and then the next band comes on. It's like the top of the hour, new
Wow.
band stage. And you can stay all day, you can stay for a couple bands, it's a lot of fun. And what's nice about it is sometimes you get to hear some songs that maybe you want to play in your band, but another band was performing there, so you get some ideas. And then it's a rather small community. Some of us kind of bump into each other all the time in different situations, so seeing old friends, making new friends. It's a nice event.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome. Yeah, it's cool that, that they do that, and it's cool that you're hosting it because I think, getting that, cohesiveness when the, different bands kind of come through, and depending how long or how many bands you have, it's just you could see so many different groups and where they are and who, from different areas, and that's just really neat to kind of bring everybody together.
yeah, I
Do
know
you,
the conductors like to talk to each other
yeah.
too, so that's fun. But we've wanted to host for a while, but what's involved in hosting is that the host band provides the percussion. And as you know,
Oh,
percussion is not cheap. So it's
hmm.
taken us a bit of time to kind of get enough where we felt like we could actually host the event. So
Right. Yep.
we actually got lucky because our band is through Baltimore County Recreation and Parks.
Okay.
This facility is through the park rec and park services, and they're actually hosting it for us. So
That's great.
they're kind of putting it on, and we're doing all the work, but they're providing like the staff and the place, and it's going to be really fun.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Well, good luck with that. It's just it's good that you're, kind of stepping up to do that just because it's just I just think it's so important, especially like you said, get the conductors together, other musicians together. It's just I don't know, it's just bringing
Yeah,
people together. I think,
and
that's the
it's
most
nice we
important
can
thing.
bring the community out to see,
Yeah.
like, we'll obviously be advertising this, and then community will come out and probably realize, oh, there's community bands. I didn't know that. Can I join? And you might, get people to get more active in their community bands wherever they're from. So,
Yeah, I know. I always say that. I always feel like, there's so many people out there who've, played and might be on a hiatus or haven't
mhm.
played in a while. I mean, you never know who you can meet. Like, I always tell this story. We did this concert with one of the community bands that my wife and I started. And it was really it was around Easter and we were playing, I mean, the most, very small, low level in, Easter music. It was just bunny hop, different things, a march. I mean, it was like I always joke like, it was just some of the music was just not challenging at all. And we gained so many people from that performance. Because they saw us when they drove by and they're like, oh, well, they don't have a trombone, or, oh, well, they have one of this, or, oh, yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like, you never know. You know what I mean? I'm
You
not,
never
I'm not,
know.
I'm not dissing what we did, but I always joke, that it wasn't, the most high end concert at all. It wasn't really, it was just, we were background music. We're glorified background music, so.
Yeah.
Ugh. Well, hey, I want to spend a little time. I know one of the biggest endeavors was the Hunt Valley Wind Ensemble, and I thought, you had this idea of starting it, which I just think is amazing. And I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about that. How this came to, and what you did, and where it's now. Because I mean, of what I've seen on Facebook, I know it's been very successful. I've seen tons of people, so so I think that's
Yeah.
amazing and it's great. So
Yeah, we have so many people we can't even fit in the band room anymore. So it's like we've
that's a
had to
good
literally,
problem.
it's a great problem. I mean, considering where it started, but I'll go back to the beginning. So when
Yeah.
I was on my year hiatus from the previous band,
Yeah.
um, I tried out one band that was somewhat close by, and it just didn't have the feel I was looking for.
Okay.
No, I can't even put my finger on it. I just didn't feel like it was a good fit for me. And then being a flute player,
Hmm.
we're a dime a dozen. There are flutes everywhere. So
Okay.
trying to find another band that might be a good fit was going to be hard because um, they probably didn't have room.
Okay.
So there was another band I was looking at, and they had a waiting list that was huge. And then I looked into a couple of things, and it's just like, oh, you play flute. I was like, man, I really wish I played oboe right now. So, um, So I said, I wonder if I could just start my own. And I don't know what's involved. I mean, I served on the board of the previous band. I think it was like 8 years of
Okay.
the 12 that I was there. It might have even been 10. I got right
Okay.
involved from the beginning. So I felt like I knew a lot about how a community band should operate. And there
Sure.
were things I liked about it, and there's things I didn't. So I figured, well, why not? I'll just start my own. So I was like, all right, well, the first thing I'm going to need is a conductor. I don't conduct. So, I mean, I could probably muddle through something, but it's not going to be pretty. So
Mhm.
I was like, all right, well, my kids were in elementary school at the time. So, and I loved their music teacher there. So
Mhm.
I asked him if he'd be interested in conducting. He's, of course, said, I'd love to, but I have no time. He says, but I can send out a message to some people I know that might be interested. So he sent out a message to maybe like 8 people that he thought might
Mm.
be interested. And the first person that responded, and then he asked them to respond to me. Within 45 minutes of that email, Matt Benner from our local high school contacted me and said, I am very interested in this. Please tell me more. So I started talking to him, and it worked out that it was the high school around the corner from my house, which
Oh,
which was our targeted, when I say our, I guess it was my targeted
mhm.
rehearsal place, because I was going to go through the Park and Recreation Council so we can get school space.
Got it.
Um, I wasn't going to have any percussion. I mean, that we're
Hmm.
talking tens of thousands of dollars to get that. I didn't,
Hmm.
starting with literally $0. So he reached out, happened to be at the school at Delaney High School, and I said, I'd love to talk to you more about this. Can we meet? And he said, sure. I said, well, I think I was leaving for a trip for Florida, but I was coming like back the next week. So the day after I got back, we met. I met him at in his office at the school, and the two of us just hit it off. We were on the same page with the type of music we wanted to play, the level of music we
Hmm.
wanted to play, what we wanted to provide to the community. He just loves to conduct. So I said, okay, so I feel like no one else had really reached out. So I said, I feel like this is good enough for me. Like, you were
Hmm.
excited. We're on the same page on like pretty much everything. So I said, all right, well, what I'm going to do is go to the rec council. I'm going to present my program idea and see if they'll approve it. I pretty much knew they would. And because I kind of pre-talked about it before. And then we'll go from there. So did that, got approved, and then I just started putting ads out everywhere I could. New community band starting in the area. We need all instruments, all wind instruments and percussionists. So I put it on Craigslist when this is back in the time where Craigslist was a little bit more popular than it is now. Put it there. I created a Facebook page. I put it there. I emailed anyone I knew and said, can you just forward this to anybody?
Hmm.
And then I put on the bottom of any email I sent out, and that might have included emailing my kids' teachers. On the bottom of my signature, I was like, new community band starting. And I just put a little blurb there, like, contact me for interested. And slowly but surely, we got people like sending in their check to write, because you had to pay to be part of the rec council. Like, so I was starting to collect these checks, and they were going to start. So I think I started in January. Like, I think I met Matt in January. I think I started putting ads out either towards the end of January or early February. And we were slated to start the last week of June. So it took
Wow.
about 5-ish months, I would say,
Hmm.
to kind of get people. And then, so as people were emailing me or sending me checks, I would be emailing me, okay, we're now up to 3 clarinets. I just got a trombone. And then, oh my gosh, I got a tuba. This is great. Like, and we're kind of just making this list of like,
Hmm.
okay, what instruments are we going to have? Because we can't have it. We needed to have all the instruments represented somehow.
Yep.
So, and then some people just, we didn't know what we were getting when they walked in the door. So, come that last week of June, we had people coming in. We were introducing ourselves as they walked in the door, and just remember looking at him like, people are coming, like they're coming, like we're gonna have a band. So I think we had about maybe 25, give or take.
Hmm.
I don't really
Hmm.
remember, that walked in the door that night. We had enough to like do some music. And the great thing about Matt was that he worked in that high school. He was the band director. So
Hmm.
he's just pulling music out of drawers, and we're just sight reading as a group, because that was the other thing, was how we're going to get music. So since it was high school, it was perfect. So we
Yeah.
were just borrowing the high school's music there, and we got it together. We rehearsed all summer long. The group really started small, but we had our first concert by, I think it was October of that year.
Wow.
Well, and it was a good one too. I mean, it was a really good concert. So, and we had a good crowd. Like, people came, like we advertised it everywhere. I was like, we have an audience. Like, it was just so exciting. So, that's kind of how it all basically started.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it just seems like you kind of went for it, and then not to be smart when they say you build it and they'll come, and that's exactly like it was, right?
I'll joke about that. And it's interesting because you were saying how people have like take hiatuses from their
Yeah.
instrument. I mean, I had someone reach out to me saying, I haven't played my instrument in 30 years. It was a trombone player. He's like, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm going to give it a try because I really want to play again. I mean, we've had a bassoon player who was off his instrument for 40 years. Now,
Wow.
both of these individuals are still with the organization and probably are one of our more dedicated members.
Hmm.
Um, it was just really interesting. But the guy that played trombone, Len, he emails me after the first rehearsal and he goes, that was both terrifying and exhilarating. I, I'll probably be back next week though. But he was like really scared about it because it was like he had been off his instrument, but
Hmm.
he was great. He ended up joining the jazz band that we ended up adding on. And he took a break from the band after the pandemic started, but now he's back and it's just so great. Like and to this day, when I walk in rehearsal on Monday nights, I look around and I'm just so tickled that these people come back every week.
Hmm.
So like I just love it. I can just tear up about it. That they come back every week and I'm like, it's so cool that like this is here for them and I often get emails from people like that's the highlight of my week and it is so fulfilling. So it's been a good ride.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and if I may ask, how many folks are in it now? I mean, regularly. I mean, I know it fluctuates from
I
time to time.
think,
We all get that.
yeah, the revolving door, but
Yeah,
I think we're around 65 to
yeah,
70.
that's
Which
awesome.
is like, I think we are at our max. There is no
Mhm.
way we can fit any more people on that stage or in the band room. This past Monday, we added a fourth bassoonist, which is nuts, because I think we didn't even have one in the beginning, and then we finally got one, and then there was two. And then we were up to three for a little bit, and then it kind of rotates. But the fact that we had four, like I don't know if you saw my Facebook page or our wind ensemble, but our band conductor's like, I don't know if I've ever said this in my entire career, but the bassoons are too loud.
I saw that. I know.
I've never had to say quieter to the bassoons. Like that's usually not a thing.
I know. I
So
saw. I was going to ask you about that. I saw it this week on Facebook, and I'm like, that's great. Just to hear, not that they're weird instruments, but the more harder instruments to
and they're
get, and
expensive. So
right.
who wants one?
Yeah, right.
Now there's a guy, George, that plays. He started on clarinet in our group. He's also played mallets in the group. He's also conducted our group when Matt was leaving, and we had to do this we can talk about that in a minute. But
Mhm.
but he's on bassoon now. He also plays bassoon, but because we have four, we might move him back to clarinet
Got
because we
it.
need a couple second clarinets, and he can go either wherever we need him. So, and we didn't have oboes at Monday night's rehearsal for some reason. And I said, George, do you have an oboe in the car? Do you play that too?
So if I may ask, I know you made a comment, and it's not bashing of any other groups or any other ensembles. Like that's not what I'm asking this about. But what was the difference in your vision that you were looking for as far as you wanted to, because you made a comment that it was, you and you kind of hit it off that you wanted certain music to play and you wanted a certain atmosphere. And I just thought maybe if you could just expand on that a little bit.
I think the biggest thing that I wanted to see was that there was a board
Okay.
that was making the decisions as a group and not necessarily one or two people kind of running the show.
Okay.
Uh, that was one of the things I didn't like about one group that I visited. And there was nothing wrong with it. I mean, lots of groups, it's the conductor and the president maybe that kind of just do everything.
Hmm.
Uh, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just, I am a person that just like I want as much involvement as I can get because
Hmm.
I firmly believe that many hands make light work. But it also creates an investment for people that are in the band when they're stepping up to that next level because
Hmm.
when they're participating at that level with helping to make decisions for the band or whatever is coming up administratively, it's just those are the people that are going to stick around and they
Right.
really see success. Not to say that no one else does, because I mean, and I feel like people will step up when when they need to.
Hmm.
And we do have some people that are not on the board that do certain things. We have someone that like creates our flyers, and you know, we have someone on does social media that does. They're not necessarily on the board. They're just
Right.
I don't want to say administrative helpers, but for lack of a better word, that's basically what they do, and that's their way of investing their time beyond playing their instrument. But I really like the band I was in before had a board. I've been on different organizations that have a board, and it
Okay.
just makes sense to me. And I also had a vision of becoming a nonprofit organization, and I also knew that you need to have a board of directors
Hmm.
order to get approved for those things. So that was kind of the bigger picture of it all too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, because I always think about those things because it's just nice that you kind of created that kind of niche of what you were looking for and that vision you were looking for, and it's been very successful, which is kudos to you. And of course, I know it's not just you. We always say that in the band world, it's not just one person, but it's nice that you kind of brought that point to everybody, and
Yeah,
I think it goes back to your side of leadership a little bit, where
yes,
you're not trying to be
exactly.
that person telling you what to do.
And I'm always telling everyone in the band, this is not my band. This is our band. This is
Mhm.
for all of us. It's for all of our enjoyment. It's for all of our, to give performances to our community. So
Mhm.
I'm constantly saying that. Because I might have been the one that started it, but it's it's like it takes the village to
Yeah.
make it a success, and
Mhm.
everybody's a part of that. And it's that whole like team building, teamwork. You can't have a band with just a couple instruments. You need all the instruments. So
Mhm.
I really feel strongly about that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And very well said because, it's, as I know, and I'm not, trying to be smart here, but it's a lot, to get everything together,
Yeah. And not to say I
especially.
don't do a lot of work on my own. I mean, I was talking about George in playing bassoon. He's also our
Mhm.
treasurer, but he's always like, "You do too much work for the band, Jen." And I said, "But I love it."
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
I always say I could probably make this a full-time job if somebody wanted to pay me to do it. Because it is a lot going on. There's a lot of moving pieces. There's ordering music and getting it on the website,
Mhm.
and keeping our Facebook group alive. Actually, my daughter's our social media person. She's she's gonna be 16 in a couple of weeks, and we lost her. We had a couple of social media people. I used to do it all, and
Mhm.
then I was like, okay, that's something I could have someone else do, and
Yeah.
feel okay with that. But we've had a couple people try it out, and one person left the band, and the other person got too busy and had to take a break. And then my daughter plays in the band with us, and she's like, I can do social media, and I was like, well, let's bring it to the board. That's great. So she's in charge of it now.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Perfect. She's the right age for it, to be honest.
Hmm. Yep.
So
She'll get
yeah,
all the, not to be smart, she'll get all the cool little tricks and pictures and,
I
sayings and all
know.
that stuff.
She knows how to work that Canva app that all the kids are into now that I haven't even really looked at. So,
Uh-huh. So,
so
I mean, one thing I wanted to say is, where you are with the group right now, and I know you might want to talk a little bit. I know you changed conductors a little bit, and I know that happened, and you can explain that. But I was just interested also of like goals of what the group's doing, just because I'm always interested in that because you started it and it seems like now it's up and running and you seem to be very active, which is great. So I'm just interested where the next steps are, if that makes
yeah.
sense.
So I'm always thinking bigger and better somehow. And,
Mhm.
some people think I'm crazy sometimes, like, oh, Jen, that's too big. But one of the goals was that I wanted to see if the Association for Concert Bands would bring a convention to our area, which involved us being a host.
Mhm.
Um, and that was a funny conversation because I reached out to them and said, "How come you've never brought it to Baltimore before? I've looked through all your past things. You've never brought it to Baltimore. Had no idea that you had to be a host band to do this." So I asked the question. They said, "Well, do you want to host it? We'll bring it there if you want to host it." I mean, not in so many words, but that's basically
Yeah.
how that conversation went down. And I was like, "Oh, what's involved with that?" And then they started going, I was like, "Well, I feel like we could be ready for that.
Hmm.
So our 10-year anniversary of the Hunt Valley Wind Ensemble is 2026.
Okay.
And so I thought, why don't we try to bring it here in 2026? So I asked a lot of questions. We went back and forth. We ended up, presenting a PowerPoint,
Hmm.
presentation to
Hmm.
why bring it to Baltimore,
Yeah.
and we got picked. So we are having it in April 14th through the 19th in Baltimore, Maryland. So that will be on the Association for Concert Bands website. And they changed the way they format it though. So we're not
Hmm.
necessarily the host anymore. They changed it where we're the partner band.
Oh, okay.
So instead of us having to front money and deal with a lot of financial things,
Hmm.
they do give you a kickback. They now financially support it, and the
Hmm.
partner band is in charge of logistics. So we try to find them a site. We're going to get the percussion equipment that's needed, the music stands, plan some excursions for people that might want to do that, because the partner band knows their area best, whereas the Association for Concert Bands, their board is from all over the country.
Hmm.
You might have the president might live in California, and the treasurer might live in Virginia or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So it's best to have a band to partner with so that you can kind of, because you know the area the best. So,
Hmm.
so anyway, so we're the partner band for 2026 in April. So we have a little over a year to freak out. I mean, get excited. Um, we feel really ready for it. I feel like our band has been in a good spot for a while. We're doing the community band day this year, so it's kind of like our trial run,
Yeah.
and we'll have the big one for the national in the following April. So I feel like that's good. But other things I think I would like to see our band do. I think I would love to see our band travel somewhere, maybe
Okay.
overseas as a group.
Hmm.
That would take an enormous amount of fundraising and planning, and probably getting some kind of travel company involved that has done that kind of thing before. But I would love to see us do that. We might maybe start on a smaller scale and maybe have meet another community band in the country
Hmm.
first. It's
Hmm.
like, then maybe we look into a travel situation. But those are kind of the big things. It was like Community Band Day, Association for Concert Bands, and like
Hmm.
traveling. That's what I have on my mind. Um, so I think our first and foremost thing is trying to get more audience to come see us and getting the word out that we exist. I think that's my biggest thing, and I feel like each year we get a little bit more notoriety even
Hmm.
within our area. We have a local Facebook group for our town that I'm always like, oh, this is your town band. This is your town band. So I just keep putting out that we're your town band. Come see your town band, and trying to make that like kind of catch on.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
it's getting there a little bit, but it takes some time because concert band music is not something people think of going to see all the
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
We might think of their local symphony. We have the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, known as the
Hmm.
BSO around here. People think about that. But I would say if you like going to see the BSO, you'll love coming to see Hunt Valley Wind Ensemble because we're free. So, you can't beat that.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, well, those are great goals. I mean, and you shared quite a bit. By the way, congratulations. You're doing both of those events. I know the one for the Maryland More Community Band Association and the thing with AC bands. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, that's great achievements. And I think as you're moving forward, it just seems that you're just having great momentum, and I think everyone's kind of seeing that. But I agree. You brought it up about the audience, and I thought I'd ask a little bit. That's I think everyone suffers with that for some reason. It's like, we do all of these concerts and these performances, and we would love to have so many people to come, and we don't have that many in the audience. And it's not, I think it's hard. I say, do they not know? Sometimes.
Thing. I was like, do they not know, or is it like, is it? I try to think of like what is the actual thing? Are we not getting the word out? Is the timing wrong? Is it the
Mhm.
wrong time of day? Is it the wrong day of the week? Is it the wrong venue? There's like so many factors, and like, you only have so many concerts a year to kind of play with those variables.
Right.
And how do how do we figure out what works? We do know in Baltimore to not plan a concert on a Ravens football game day. We'll
Hmm.
get nobody.
Hmm. Yep.
So when we're planning out our fall and winter concert, we are sitting there with the Ravens schedule next to us, trying to figure out not to plan on those days.
Yep.
So there's that factor too. So
Yep.
I think some of the other things that we're trying to look at is getting out to the retirement communities a little bit more. There's a couple of bigger communities in our area that have auditoriums.
Hmm.
So I'm meeting with one next week to look at their space to see if we'll fit.
Yeah.
I and if we don't, we have our jazz band. We also have a quintet, and I'm also trying to get our flute choir off the ground this year. We've talked about it for the last couple of years, and I think it's going to happen. So, yeah, so I guess trying to get our band out to see other people. It's a little difficult because, as you know, percussion is not light,
Hmm.
and our percussion is stored in all kinds of areas. Like I have a lot of it in my house. There's a bass drum in my bedroom and a marimba behind it, like on the
Got it.
stand up behind it. I used to have timpani in my garage, but that we found a storage facility through Park and Recs that they allowed us to have that space. But there was, one of the other band members has the xylophone under his
Mhm.
bed. Our band direct, we just bought a podium for the first time. So she's like, I think I should probably have that since I'm the conductor. So she has that. It's like, and then it's like when it's time to need to pull these instruments out to a performance, it's like, all right, everyone meet at Jen's house with big cars. Like it's, one of those things. I think eventually I'd love to see us get like a trailer where we keep everything in there, but
Hmm. Yep.
we're not even 10 years old yet. So
Yeah, definitely. It all
we're
takes
doing
time.
well.
It takes time.
I mean, the fact that we even have half the percussion we do at this point is just amazing in itself. We've been able to raise money and, we've gotten a couple grants and things like that. So we've been able to purchase most of what we need. So
That's awesome.
we just need to get a vibraphone. That's our next thing. So if you know anybody,
Yeah.
that's our next big one that we
That's your
need.
big one, yeah. And one
Yeah.
that's compatible, that can bust down and go in underneath someone's bed too, because right,
Yeah,
that's
that would
that's
be
important.
good.
Not to be smart, but that's you got to think of those things.
Yeah, my husband's like, okay, I don't know if we can fit any more. I mean, I think we have congas in my bedroom too,
Yeah.
in the corner. And the marimba parts are all broken down inside our like big walk-in closet. So it's
Yep.
like behind clothes and stuff. It's
Yep.
it's ridiculous. But I love it because I'm just glad we have it.
Yeah,
So
and it's great that you're thinking like of different things because I'm being I guess a little philosophical about this. I think about this too, like planning a concert when is going to be the best time, and it's funny. I'll bring this up, as you said about the Ravens. This is just something I thought about so quickly. So we always do a tuba Christmas, and we always do it the Friday after Thanksgiving, when it's a big shopping day, and we've been very successful. Well, we moved it to the next day for a couple of years, and it wasn't so successful. And I brought it back to that Friday and it's successful again. And it's just I don't know why. It's just a difference of one day, but it's funny we end up connecting with more musicians because it's where people can kind of show up and play if they want that kind of thing. But it's just interesting to hear you say that just because, if it's a game day for the Ravens, nope, or there's something going on.
exactly, exactly. So, and the other issue we also have is that we share space obviously with the high school students. So we have to
Mhm.
make sure that we're putting our concerts near their concerts because
Right.
then we can use the stage for our dress rehearsal. And we have to make sure it's not when the dance group is going to have their performance because then the dance mat's down on the stage, and that's a whole thing where they have to put it down. Nobody can step on it, and you definitely can't put a
Yeah.
band on top of that. So we have to really plan around the school schedule too. So it gets tricky. And we've tried having concerts in other venues too, but again, like if it's not a high school that already has band equipment that we can use, like trying to lug all this stuff around,
Mhm.
it's a little bit of a hassle. I mean, we get it done, but
Yeah, it's time consuming. I know that's what I think a lot of people don't think about, as far as a group. just because, and I joke this with my friends, that do we think music's just, like the radio, you can turn it on, turn it up, turn it off, that kind of thing. But just thinking about moving the equipment, spaces and being somewhere and performance and, especially if you have equipment in different areas and things that you need and how much prep and how much time, what I
It
mean? It takes just to pull off a single concert.
really does. And my husband is not a musician. I mean, he played sax for a couple years in elementary school, and that's
Mhm.
about it as far as it went with him. But he's he calls himself the roadie. So he does all the recording. He does the audio and video recording, and he
Mhm.
puts up our sign at the concerts. I mean, he's right there doing all like the background stuff. So it's just, you
Mhm.
know, it's really a family affair because like
Yep.
my daughter's in the band. I just got my youngest to play trumpet in it in the recent concert, and I'm trying to get my oldest to do something. And I was like, you have to be involved. This is a family affair.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I always say this, like as far, well, into research and stuff. I always think about that, how many families are involved with different groups, and I know the Belfont Community Band, and I always think about this. I was the conductor for a few years there, and I mean, they had kids grow up and go through it and then bring their own children into it. And it's great to see that, just seeing that. And it's like, it's funny that you're talking about that because of where all of you are involved with it, even your husband, where he's not necessarily playing, but he's still involved with it.
Very much involved, yeah. And like, and with my daughter, it's funny because she's a flute player too, but because our waiting list is so long, because flutes are so popular, I said when we need a percussionist, I said, "Do you want to try percussion out?" And the interesting thing about that is that not only is she playing percussion for us,
Mhm.
but she's now playing percussion for school, and she got into the honors band
Wow.
doing that. She couldn't make it on her flute because that's very competitive, but she
Yeah.
got it on percussion. And the band teacher knew she can do it, but it was interesting because she let her send in a video audition, and she one of the things she had audition on was timpani, and I said to my husband, I said we need to go get the timpani out of the storage because our daughter has an audition. So she did it. She did it from her living room. She practiced and practiced and practiced and recorded it, sent it to her teacher, and the teacher said, "Okay, you can be in the honor band." So
Wow.
she's in there now, and it's great because she still plays her flute with the marching band, so it's not like she ditched that completely. So
Yeah.
it's been kind of cool to see how that's evolved because of the community band that
Mhm.
she's participating in. So yeah, I mean it is a true community band because we have
Good.
from well now middle school with my son, he's a middle schooler, all the way through retirees. And then we
Sure.
have students from the school that rehearse at, which I'm always trying to make it more of a partnership with the school. I want more of their band members to
Right.
join, maybe collaborate with their band somehow and do something together at some point. So,
Yeah.
um, because we use their space, so it's only natural to have them in our band too. So.
Yeah, well, one question I had for you is, just something I'm thinking as you're telling all these great, things that you're doing. Did you ever think about what your motivation is that kind of really pulls you to do all of this? And I'm not trying to be smart here, but it's like it's very awesome to see you doing all this for the community. And I know you're not just doing it for yourself. I know you're doing it for more people. And I'm not, as I phrase that, I'm thinking, what's your motivation? I think it's more than that. But I'm just interested, just because you seem so upbeat into you know, getting the band to do this and do this and do that, creating the band. It's the 10-year anniversary. You're going to host, for AC bands. All those great things have kind of, are happening, and I know they take work. As and I was just interested if you could reflect, if anything comes to mind.
I mean, I just love it. And obviously some of it's self-serving,
Hmm.
obviously, but the more that I see the joy of people within the group, it that keeps me going. I mean, when I get these little notes like this is the highlight of my week, like
Hmm.
that's motivation. I just every rehearsal is just I just love rehearsals almost more than performances sometimes
Hmm.
because there's just so many funny things that happen in rehearsal and I
Hmm.
love to laugh. So, I mean even just last Monday with the whole thing with the four bassoons. So,
Right.
I mean, I even said to my neighbor with the bassoon thing, I said, I was talking to the girl next to me, I go, "Well, it's not a competition." But hello, all the other community bands. It is to us. We have four bassoons. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think I get so much joy out of it, and I just hope that we can just get the word out that we exist more. So I feel like bigger the events that we do, and the more we get our name out there, the more people
Mhm.
are going to realize that we exist, and they'll come to our concerts, and then it kind of just kind of loops around a circle. Like people
Mhm.
come, that's exciting. People still want to play because there's someone to perform for. So
Right.
it just kind of just I can't put my finger on any one thing specifically, but
Yeah.
I just love playing. So
Yeah. Well, and that's fine, just because I always kind of look at that, and again, I always look at the energy, the motivation, the reason why people are performing, because I think that's where the magic happens. And you made a comment very, very much that most have said already. There's just I can't put my one finger on it because I agree with that because there's so much to it that adds to your character, and even when you were talking in the beginning, how the leadership of the drum corps really helped you. I mean, it just keeps adding and adding to your life. And I know I'm not saying that, that you're just doing this for yourself. I know I'm not taking it that direction. It's more of, that connection that you're having, to just provide for people. And I think that's amazing.
I think, and it's almost funny in a way because no matter where I go, like I talk to people everywhere, and somehow I'm able to bring in the fact that this band exists into almost
Mhm.
every conversation. I don't know how it happens. Like we were in the local convenience store at the gas station the other day with me and my daughter, and she was wearing her marching band jacket, and
Mhm.
some guy comes walking in and says to my daughter, "Oh, what do you play? I'm the music teacher at this elementary school nearby." And she says, "Well, I play flute." And he's like, "Oh yeah, keep going." And he was talking to her, and I said, "Oh, and I happen to be the founder and the president of the Hunt Valley Wind Ensemble. What do you play, Mr. Music Teacher?" And he's like, "I play trombone." I said, "Well, here's my card, why don't you come check us out." So it was just, I think I bought a thing of 500 business cards on like Vistaprint or something, and just
Yeah.
find a way to give them out all the time.
Yep.
And my husband laughs at me. He's like, "You always bring that band up." I'm like, "Hey, I've gotten people to come join the band, come watch the band, somehow be involved in the band because I just love talking about it so much."
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's just great. I mean, it's just great to hear because I think a lot of people, really, I don't want to say it's the wrong way, but get stuck in what they're doing, and it's just great to see this kind of life to it. Just because I think that's so important to it, and as we're kind of wrapping this up, I know this might be a little bit more of a deeper question, but this is what I'm trying to kind of lead into. So as you know a little bit about me, I deal with not deal, but I try to get people to go back on the other side, right? Try to play their instrument again or sing or be involved with music because I feel like it drops off, and not that I believe it happens for everybody, but I always find that it's when school and they're involved when school stops,
yes.
music stops. I did that in school, whether it's college or high school or elementary or whatever. That's when I did it, and that's it, and it stops. And it saddens me because there's talent out there, for folks that don't look at themselves as being playing instruments, or folks like you that had a 7 year hiatus for a little bit, but did come back. And I guess like what I wanted to ask you is, do you have any advice as far as what you could say to other folks? To kind of get them to come back out or to, encourage them to, make music again or to encourage audience members just to come down and see a concert. I know that we're talking about that right now.
Yeah.
Anything you can kind of talk about just because I'm really interested in what other people's viewpoints are. And like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I advertised to build the band
Mhm.
on my flyers that I went around and hung up, also, I don't think I mentioned that earlier. I'd go to Starbucks in the
Yeah.
library, wherever I could hang a flyer. I started with, "Did you used to play in band in high school or college? Then you can come play with us." So something along those lines. I had some kind of
Mhm.
catchier phrase.
Sure.
And for the longest time, as we were trying to build the band and as people were coming to seeing our performances, either myself or Matt, who was our founding conductor, said to the audience, music doesn't have to end with high school or college.
Mhm.
And we always talked about, if I'm on the microphone, I said the people behind me 99% of them are not professional musicians. They come from all walks of life. They might be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or a teacher,
Hmm.
and they're here playing for the love of playing.
Right.
And I always say somewhat, and I think I've said this also in my little concert speeches that some of these people have been off their instrument for decades and have come back to play. So it's never too late to go back to your instrument. If you think, oh, it's been 20, 30, even 40 years since I played my band instrument, I don't know if I can do it, just pick it up and try it
Hmm.
because it does come back. I mean, all these people that say they've been off for a while said it, you're gonna have to practice. You're gonna have to, you might have to take a couple lessons or something to get back into it or get your method books back out, but it does come back.
Right.
Um, and it brings such joy to those people that have been off and been wanting to play again. And when they find a place that, oh, you don't have to audition. You're not going to judge me for, not playing. I'm not a professional. It's just so wonderful to see. So I say that if you think that it's been too long, it hasn't been. Just pick it up. You don't have an instrument. There are a dime a dozen all online. Go
Hmm.
rent one from your local music shop. Sometime, and the best time to rent is at the beginning of a school year. They run deals where you can get it for like 3 months for like next to nothing. So,
Hmm.
if you're even contemplating, that's the best time. But I say just give it a go and find a local community band and see if you can get in there. If it's too much, go get lessons, come back. We've had a couple people do that in our band. They said,
Hmm.
"Oh, this is a little bit more challenging than I thought it would be." They went and got some lessons for a few months, even a year, and have come back and have joined us and are still there now. So, yeah, don't be afraid.
Yeah, very well said. I know I feel like I still think about this and contemplate this sometimes that, I think sometimes people get nervous, just because that, like you said, the judging part of it, and it's good you say those kind of things because I feel, especially if you haven't played in a long time,
Yeah. And I
are you
always
going to be
tell
graded?
people, yeah, exactly. I always tell people, look, we're a non for our group. This is not for all group, but our group's a non-audition group. You're auditioning yourself. You
Hmm.
know what you can handle and if you're gonna be able to cut it or not, or if you're gonna have to just take some time and take some lessons and come back to it later.
Right,
And I always tell people we're a no judgment band. Our band is the friendly community band. We don't judge, we encourage. So, um, you know, we don't want anybody to feel like, it's not for them.
right.
We actually had someone that joined us for a little bit who was blind. I've never, I've, to be honest, I don't know if I've ever met a blind person in my life, and that I couldn't wrap my mind around this, how
Hmm.
this was going to work. But he was like, "Yep, he serves on some kind of board of some sort that supports blind individuals with different arts, might be musical theater or whatever." And I said, excuse my, ignorance. How is this going to work? Because you can't see the conductor and what they're conducting. And I learned so much from him. He said, he would listen for the people taking breaths around him,
Wow.
and that's how he would know like when to come in and stuff. And then he had to have someone like translate like all the music into Braille for him. He's taken a break for a while because it was a little overwhelming, but he thinks he can make it work, so he's going to try to come back at some point. But just that was
Yeah.
inspiring. I was a little nervous at first because I was like, the band room can be very crowded and there's a lot of chairs and stands and
Hmm.
people and there's cases. And I was like, I was really worried about safety, but I asked him straight up. I was like, I'm just gonna ask you, like, I'm just a little concerned. He said, nope, I've been blind my whole life. This is the way I navigate. So he found the band room, he got there and he played along. I was just fascinated, but that was the first time for that. So I hope he
Yeah.
comes back because he was really interesting person.
That's
Uh,
awesome you accommodated, definitely.
yeah, I would. That's one thing that we do try to do. Like we try to accommodate people like where we can. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I felt like if he felt confident enough to even reach out and give this a try, why wouldn't we let him?
Right. Yeah.
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 So hope he comes back though.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hey,
So
Jen, thank you so much, for being on this podcast. I appreciate you kind of sharing your stories, and just taking a few minutes to just talk to me, about what your interest is in music and, all the great endeavors you're doing. I mean, they're just it's just breathtaking, that you're offering these things. So, as I say, I don't know if you not to compliment you, but it's just I'm so happy there's other people out there who are making a difference for people, in the music making world, just because just like we said, it seems to drop off after school for some reason. So
I didn't have to.
and it
Yeah.
doesn't have to, right? So so thank you so much. And I really appreciate it. And I'm so excited and wait to see what's next, and hopefully I'm gonna see you in Baltimore because it's gonna be close
Yes.
for me.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna have to come.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.